Hi.
Simon, how are you?
Hey.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's good. Nice to see you.
Yes, you must have been very busy and good news, for the oversubscription. I read about that's great news, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it has been a bit hectic, but that's good. It's good to be busy in these challenging times. So yeah, no
Yeah,
complaints.
that's right. That's right. So, so let's wait for the rest of the show before I sort of do some housekeeping.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah. So I read that, England is having another kind of peak in terms of COVID, the pandemic. So how is it, the current situation there?
Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, it's very regional. It seems to be, various places in the north of England seem to be worst hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm based down in London, and okay, we're slightly more locked down, but not at the highest level yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it varies from place to place. But yeah, there's certainly a second wave. They're just trying to keep the lid on it a bit, I guess.
In fact, my sister, she lives in England, in Rugby, and she got COVID with my niece actually. That was like about 2 months ago, but they have
Right.
recovered. So, but she was taking precautions, she was wearing masks and all that, but nothing seems to help. So, and yeah, she got it. And you know what I told her? I say, on the hindsight, if you look at it, we are going through the winter now in England, and at least that, for 120 days, you'll be, sort of immune to the pandemic.
Yes, true. Yeah, true. Yeah.
It's terrible. Hi, Samson. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Hi, Ian. Hello, Simon.
Hey, hey, nice to see you.
How are
Hi.
you? Yeah, great to see you. Thank you for joining, everyone.
Prof. Chiu.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi.
Dr. Chiu. How are you?
Good
How are
evening.
you?
Good. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, anyway, I was just waiting for two more. I just have some little housekeeping, but maybe, I'll just do that with the three of you. So there will be an introduction. I'll take nothing less than, in total 5 minutes. So keep it about 1 minute short, okay? And after that, each question, try to stay within 3 minutes because there's only 40 minutes in total kind of like timing that we have. So 3 minutes for each question, and each question I'm just going to ask two person to answer so that it doesn't get too lagging and people sort of like run out of ideas and all that. So, and we're going to end with a Q&A 5 minutes. Samson, I don't know whether the first session you didn't have a Q&A session. Would you like to have a Q&A session today?
Yeah, I try to keep it within 10 minutes for the first session, right? So
okay.
Yeah.
So I will end with a 5 minutes Q&A. And let's see,
Sure.
if let's say, unless there's no question asked, then we will just stop it there.
So I'll just follow the questions that you have assigned to us, right? Like,
I have, yes.
Yeah,
and then
okay.
also the introduction that I'm going to start with. So I'm just going to introduce you all very short. And after that, I'm going to give you all, to ask you all for a quick introduction. And I'm going to start with Simon first, then followed by you, Dr. Chiu, and then Pietro, then Doran. Is that fine?
Mm-hmm.
This is for the first 5 minutes self-introduction, a very quick 1 minute introduction. So I repeat that. So it's Simon first, then followed by Dr. Chiu, and then Pietro, then Doran. All right?
Sure.
Okay, very good. So, is everyone here? Doran is not here yet. Yeah, okay.
I think it's Pietro left. I just messaged him in the group. Let's wait for him.
Oh, there he is. Hi, Doran. How are you? Ian Fong here.
Yes, hi. I was here actually. I was on mute and without a video.
No worries, no worries. May I ask, are you Korean?
Hey, Doran. How are you?
Hey guys. I feel insecure. I don't have the background you guys have. You guys have all beautiful backgrounds. I'm gonna keep it real.
Very good.
Well, but you are actually sitting in the nicest room. We are sitting in the kitchen, the bathroom.
Yes, I think so. Okay, one more. Where is Pietro? Camille, is he there?
I just messaged him in the group. Let's wait for him for 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay.
Or then Sam can start his presentation for 10 minutes first. I will WhatsApp him as well.
Sure. Okay.
Well,
So
I
just
think, we still have a few minutes. We can, just.
chat. So,
Can we
okay,
go-
Joan, just a little bit on the housekeeping, because you were not, I don't know whether you heard what I said. So there will be the first period where I ask you to self-introduce, but just keep it within a minute because we have a time constraint. And then after which there will be each questions, there'll only be 2 questions for each panel. So, and keep it within 3 minutes for each question. And we're gonna end with a 5 minutes Q&A. Is that fine?
I'm all good.
Okay, very good, excellent.
Can we know roughly how many people are joining this session tonight? What is the size of the audience?
I don't know, actually. I think it should be close to 100. I'm just being optimistic.
Okay.
Well, on the registration, there's a lot of people register, but it's like a Friday evening, so I don't know. What's the turnout rate?
Probably, yes. I think the
Yeah.
registration, sometimes people just register and forgot about it. But I try to sort of like, and I think Archex did it well, promote it like yesterday, Archex did, and today I did it again. So hopefully that they will remember.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Camille, are you still there?
Yes. I am. I'm looking for Pietro at the moment.
Okay. Is he coming in? Can you reach him?
Actually, no. No reply from him. Sam, can you?
Oh. Okay. Do you want? Let me call him. Okay, just hold on.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So, Juan, you are Korean,
Yes. Pardon me, say that again?
You are Korean, I presume.
Yes, I'm Korean American, but I am Korean. I can't shy away from that.
Well, most Korean will be able to speak Korean. What question am I asking? Because I studied Korean for 2 years.
Wow. And do you know business Korean? Because that's where all the challenges are.
No. Those are big challenges for me. I think conversation, I mean, I have stopped speaking the language for at least about 5 years already because, I used to have customers in Korea and then, and to make things easier. So I sort of I have to pick up a language so that, it's, they appreciate it, so.
Actually, Korean is very easy, except when you do business, then it's hard.
That's right. I know.
It is a language that goes on another level once you start doing business.
I know. So, yeah, but anyway. So I've stopped speaking.
Well, great. We're going to have to talk. Are we going to end with a Korean session? Is that what's going to happen? Is that what you're telling me? No, okay, all right. I was wondering where that was leading to. I was wondering.
Okay. So, Samson, do you manage to get Pietro? Oh, he's still on the line. Samson? Oh, you're still calling him. Okay, sorry. So, Dr. Chiu, so how is the world of academia in Hong Kong? I mean, are the lectures now still online or has it been back? I mean, in Hong Kong, there are very few cases of COVID, the pandemic. Has it been like going back to the school, the physical kind of?
It's still pretty much online on Zoom, but actually at CUHK, at our university, next week, we are preparing for hybrid classes. So students from Hong Kong, they can go to campus and attend the classes in person. And then overseas students will Zoom in to watch the lecture live. So the hybrid mode is going to start soon in most of the Hong Kong universities.
Okay. So, Samson, are we going to start without Pietro?
Yeah. Or? Well, he's coming in, but I think we can start first. We can talk about TADS, and then he will join before the panel start.
Sure. Yeah, I will keep an eye on the panelists. I will promote him. So please feel free to do that now.
Okay, Camille. So when do you want us to start? Give me a shout out.
I think now you guys can start already. So I will keep an eye on the participant list, and then when Pietro is here, I will promote him.
Okay, Samson, over to you first. I'll take over after your briefing.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with the TADS. Okay, briefing, no problem. Okay. Well, hi everyone. My name is Samson Lee. I'm the founder and CEO of Constreet Partners. Well, welcome to be here. Really appreciate for your joining. So I am in this industry doing different things, doing a lot of also non-profit organization. So I'm from Constreet Partners. Constreet Partners is an award-winning AI global decentralized investment banking group. So what we do is very simple. We manage digital asset and security tokens on a life cycle management, end-to-end life cycle. So today, I'm very pleased to share with you about TADS Awards. TADS Awards is the world first award for tokenized asset and digitized securities. So I'm going to give you some information for this first 10 minutes before we go on to a full panel. For TADS Awards, we have two categories of awards. On the left-hand side, you see Best of Class TADS is targeting for security issuers. And then on the right-hand side, we have the second category, what we call the Ecosystem Excellency. So it's targeting to solution provider and service providers. We are at the nomination period already. The nomination will run until November the 3rd. And then we will announce the result at the award ceremony online on the November 18th during the Hong Kong Blockchain Week. So some quick background. Again, TADS Awards is the world first awards of its kind. So I'm sure you're aware of many fintech awards out there. They are in general, more broad and cover a wide area, but TADS Awards very focused on tokenized asset and digitized securities. I think the key is, of course, it's an award recognizing the contribution of individuals and companies making achievement and contribution in this space. And the second purpose also trying to work together with other industrial leaders, trying to set establishing the best practice and maybe setting up a measuring standard in terms of what will be a high quality security tokens or tokenized asset, things like that, right? Because as of today, the market is lacking of any of such assessment or valuation or measuring models, right, to measure such a standard. So hopefully with this award, we are also driving this initiative. These are some of our partners with these awards. So you see there's some local players, say Hong Kong Cyberport, and also a lot of global company in here. We got the, the first company got the conditional license for virtual asset exchange in Hong Kong, OSL supporting us as well. Also thank you for Hong Kong Blockchain Week. And also Westpark Capital is a traditional investment bank out of Los Angeles. Somni Capitals is also a very big investment firm, investment bank in Hong Kong. And of course, like also including our friends from Crypto Valley from Switzerland as well. And also more other supporting organization and research partners. Yeah. So this is the steering committee. I'm not going to go into the details. If anyone interested, please feel free to go to the TADS Awards website. We have all the committees and judging committees and very transparent, everyone involved in the awards. So as mentioned, there's two categories of awards, 5 awards per category. So altogether 10 awards. As you can imagine, we have 2 categories of awards. One is targeting to different the issuers, so it's actually securities. And the other category is targeting to the ecosystem solution provider. So there are 2 very different categories. So that's why we have 2 very different set of judging criteria. Again, you can go to our website to look at all the details. So in terms of timeline, as mentioned, we are now in the middle of nomination period. It will run until November 3rd. And then have the award result to be broadcast during Hong Kong Blockchain Week on the 18th. And in between, as you can see, we have free information session. So this is the second one, and we have a last information session next week on Tuesday. Okay, on the nomination process, it can be submitted online. Nominees can submit application themselves, or they can have a nominator to nominate them as well, right? There are two parts of the application. The first part, just to fill in basic information of the nominee or the nominator. And then the second part is for the nominee to fill out all the details of the application and provide all the supporting documentation. And then the application will go to vetting and shortlist the project will then further go to an award and judging committee for grading and winner selection. So just a tips for those who are interested to participate in the award. My tip is to go to our website and find any partners, committee member, judges for them to be your nominator, right? Because if any project that is being nominated by any committee partners you can find on our website, the project will receive a 5% bonus point. This is because at that level of vetting, right? And of course, the committee nominate the project, like they will be abstaining during they will not be participate in the voting to avoid conflict of interest. Okay, so this is our award ceremony. So we select Hong Kong to be hosting the ceremony for this year as a kickoff year because of the background of the financial center in Hong Kong, of course, ceremony in other countries as well. And as mentioned, the ceremony will be broadcast during Hong Kong Blockchain Week at 8 p.m. Evening Hong Kong time. Okay, I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Samson, for the briefing just now. So, yes. So thank you very much, Samson, for the briefing just now. I'm sure that a lot of companies will be interested to submit for this inaugural awards. And so we'll go to the next session, which is, of course, the panel discussion. So first of all, hi, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Ian from Propine. First mass regulated end-to-end securities firm built for digital security, serving the needs of institutional clients. I'll be your host today for the TADS Awards second panel discussion. To those delegates who have taken time to join us, thank you very much. And we hope that you will enjoy today's exciting panel discussion on market opportunities of tokenized assets and digitized securities ahead of the upcoming TADS Awards ceremony in November this year. To start, let me introduce you to our illustrious panel. One of our superstar panelists today is none other, of course, Samson Lee, CEO of CoinStreet Partners, and the man behind the much talk about TADS Awards, and also the one that has given us the briefing for TADS Awards just now. Also in attendance is Simon Barnby, CMO at Archex, Juan Lee, founder and CEO of NextChange Group, Professor Chiu Sin Ming, Associate Professor of Practice in Finance at Chinese University of Hong Kong Business School, and last but not least, Pietro Doran, Managing Principal at First Rock Associates. Let's start with us welcoming the panel. Hello guys, a very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for taking time off to be here today. Can each of you give us a quick introduction and tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do? Let's start with Simon.
Hi, yeah, thanks Ian for that introduction, and thanks Samson for the invite to be on the panel today. Good afternoon, good evening to you all, wherever you are, attendees. Simon Barnby, I'm from Archex. For those of you that don't know Archex, we recently received our FCA, Financial Conduct Authority regulation from the regulator here in the UK. As the first ever regulated digital securities exchange based out of London. So we're very excited to achieve that milestone. we will be launching in Q1 of next year. Our exchange, although based in London and regulated in London, it's very much a global marketplace. So listing issuances from around the world and with trading members from around the world. So much more information, please look at our website or feel free to contact me after the event.
Dr. Chu?
Hi, good evening, everyone. From Hong Kong. I'm the Assistant Dean for External Engagement and Associate Professor of Practice in Finance at CUHK Business School. So as the fintech industry is growing rapidly, our business school is developing more fintech courses, and I personally teach a few at CUHK Business School. So I'm joining this conference tonight to learn more about the latest developments in the asset tokenization myself, and perhaps to generate some new ideas from this panel, hopefully, that I can incorporate into my teaching. Thank you.
Okay, next, Pietro.
Right, Pietro Doran, Managing Principal with First Rock. I am a real estate guy, but done nothing else for the last 25 years. Almost all of that spent up in Northeast Asia, specializing in Korea, Japan, China real estate. I'm specifically involved in the financing, structured financing end of the game, although I came out of real estate from services and research and all of that, so fairly well-rounded. Been involved in the development of one of the largest smart cities in Asia as a managing principal, $30 billion project in Seoul, Korea called New Sungdo City. I have been involved in the blockchain space now for the last 3 years or so, very closely with Sam. Sam has been a real mentor in the whole area for me, where we actually launched one of the first real estate services company to be, based on the blockchain. The COVID rather suspended a lot of that work because real estate is still at the end of the day a people business. It's difficult to do that purely through digital. But we'll talk more about that later, but that's basically, I was with Morgan Stanley out here in North Asia. I ran the real estate practice in Korea, particularly in distressed assets and that sort of thing. So that's basically my background. And it's a real pleasure to be with all of you, and congratulations, Archex, on launching. That's really exciting stuff to hear.
Thank you, Pietro. And last but not least, Doran.
Hello, everyone. My background is very simple. I spent 30+ years on the buy side, venture capital, asset management, hedge fund, prop trading. So having spent that much time, I really got to understand the regulatory framework and the investments in various different asset classes. About 6 years ago, I started Nextchange, and Nextchange has evolved into a venture platform with a media angle to it. We're developing more into a digital merchant bank. And through our media angle, we build ecosystem, especially in a number of innovation areas. And we are also the organizer for Hong Kong Blockchain Week. We use this community to drive flow into venture building, asset management, and advisory. I'm very excited to be here and will love to learn from all of you guys on the panel.
Thank you very much, Doran. Okay, let's rock and roll. Let's start the thing. So big congratulations to Simon and also to your team at Archex for closing an oversubscribed seed round, raising $8 million from a group of VC firms. And since making a splash as the first digital securities exchange and custodian in the UK to be regulated by FCA 2 months ago, there seems to be no stopping Archex of late. So, and this seems to be a key factor for some of the VC's firms' consideration of investing in the company. Do you think that this is a sign of the industry maturing soon and that regulation clarity is the best way to ensure the success of this industry?
Yeah, I think there's a number of factors there. No, thank you for your congratulations. Yeah, it's great to be, reaching some milestones, which I think are great for Archex, but actually are great for the industry as a whole. The whole sort of emerging, digital security or security token ecosystem. These are kind of important steps for us all globally. I think at the end of the day, you know, if you create a token that represents an asset, then it is a regulated instrument. There's no getting away from it. So I don't think the question is whether regulation is good or bad. It's a fact of life. They're regulated instruments, and we have to kind of live with that. And certainly when we embarked on our journey 2 years ago at the start, we kind of looked at getting regulated in different places. And certainly in some jurisdictions, it's an easier place, a cheaper place, a quicker place to get regulated. But in the end, you know, we always kind of saw our plan was always to kind of bring the benefits of blockchain, crypto tokenization to the traditional institutional financial markets world. And if you're targeting that audience, then they really only like to trade, or they certainly prefer to trade on venues regulated in key financial centers, which is, you know, why we took the decision to go and get regulated by the FCA in London. And, you know, it's taken a couple of years. It's been a tough journey, but you know, we've got through, and we think it's a very important milestone for the industry. So, you know, and certainly since getting our regulation in place, it certainly helped us close out our fundraise. It certainly has helped us further conversations with people who want to list their tokens on Archax and people who want to trade with Archax. So I think it's seen as a, you know, a positive step for moving this whole ecosystem forward.
All right. So, I mean, even I think Bloomberg just reported recently that, you know, Ripples is considering or threatening to leave US and setting up because of the of the regulation uncertainty in the US. So I guess that what do you say to that?
Well, I think, you know, the FCA is a tough regulator, but pretty fair. And, you know, they had very firm ideas around the different types of crypto assets and what they were going to do with them. And although it was a tough journey, they were working with us. I think they wanted to be seen as you know, at the forefront of this. They wanted to be on the front foot. They wanted to make sure London remains a sort of a fintech and financial capital of the world. So although it was a tough journey, they were, you know, they in a way wanted us to succeed. You know, they weren't going to cut any corners, but it was a positive relationship. I think some of the regulators in the US, they're tough, but they're also they put up barriers to things happening in some ways. And I think people are scared of them so much so that, you know, people are looking at doing things elsewhere. I mean, we get a lot of security token projects that are actually out of the US, but they don't want to list in the US because there is this regulatory uncertainty, and also it can be a challenge to, you know, if you do something wrong, it's a bit of a nightmare. So actually they quite like the idea of listing on a regulated venue in another jurisdiction like London. So, you know, so it's interesting. So I think that's, you know, they're not unique in wanting to do that. I think there's a bit of a trend, but you know, it'll be interesting to see how things pan out.
So, and now over to you, Prof. Chiu. What do you think is driving the evolution of asset tokenization and digital securities?
I think there are couple of factors. So number one, the increasing understanding and application of blockchain technology in various industries is important. The successful application of blockchain technology in payments, in trade finance, in real estate transactions, and other industries will of course help to build the confidence in this technology and prompt financial leaders to explore more on the potential of asset tokenization. Number two, I think the establishment of digital exchanges and their accessibility is also important. So with security tokens coming to the market, there are now exchanges built specifically for security tokens issuance and trading, such as Polymath, T0, Digitized, Archax, you know, so many, right, to increase the investors' confidence. I think some of these digital exchanges, they're now working closely with the regulators to obtain the necessary approvals and licenses. And as you mentioned, regulation, of course, is an important building block to ensure the protection of investors and to enable the digital securities creators to follow the rules and legal framework consistently. So a clear regulatory guidance will lay the groundwork for securities advisory firms to provide underwriting services to companies intending to raise funds through STOs. And so over time, the convergence of a new fundraising form to traditional capital markets frameworks will help to boost the acceptance of security tokens.
All right. Oh, that's good to know. So over to you, Pietro. So I did some digging around, and I'm sure you get this a lot. You are a US veteran real estate developer with an Italian name. dabbling in Korea's most successful and innovative developers of smart city technology solutions, and currently being the managing principal of real estate firm based out of Hong Kong. How amazing is that? So, and since you are experienced in real estate market, which is very complex, I'm sure that you're aware of the potential benefits of real estate tokenization, such as democratization, liquidity, blockchain efficiencies, and so on and so forth. However, the real question here is, does everyone want more liquid markets? How about sophisticated real estate PE investors, where they credit the illiquid nature of real estate to how they can generate outsized returns? And some even go to the extent of saying that the greatest invention in the world is not having to mark to market in real estate. So what do you say to that?
Wow, that's a big question. I gotta dissect that one. I think in terms of real estate and tokenization, you really have to segment out what one means by tokenization and the expectations for what tokenization can do for the industry. There's been several tokenizations of assets. The Regis project, which was the sort of pioneering project for real estate tokenization. There's been some debt tokenizations that have gone on. Everybody's talking about the fractionalization of real estate, which you get into crowdfunding and fractional through crowdfunding, more democratization of ownership of real estate. The challenge for real estate is it's an immovable asset. Tokenizing a painting, for example, a Renoir or something that sits in a highly regulated environment, a safe lockbox that maintains the condition of that asset. Gold, which for thousands and thousands of years, its value is the very fact that it doesn't degrade. But of course, its value is just because we all agree it's valuable. You can't eat it. You can't take it like a vitamin. If you're out in the middle of a desert and you've got no water and a pile of gold and somebody walks along with an old sheet bag full of water, it's the old trade that goes on. It's only worth what you think it is at that moment in time. For real estate, one has to remember that what we're talking about is an immovable asset. It requires management. Unlike when you talk about company corporate securities, even trading companies that look on the stock market, the valuation of companies, thousands and thousands involved in it. Everybody's trading securities, exchange markets around the world. However, with real estate, I mean, the obvious lead-in is the REITs, which were the first attempt to democratize the ownership of real estate. And that's very much where the tokenization wants to go. However, real estate, when you start to talk about high-quality real estate, and even more so when you start to talk about low-quality real estate, you're talking about assets around the world in jurisdictions with very different taxes, tax regimens, legal issues, all of the environmental issues that go with it. So typically when we talk about a tokenization up to this point, you're talking about a single asset securitization. That means you own that real estate, that you own that asset. And if it's tokenized, that asset, it's very difficult, in my opinion, to trade that asset. You have to sell your piece of that building. And there's got to be someone somewhere who also would want to buy that asset. So you tend to risk where if you securitize an asset like that, tokenize it, and you have investors who, first of all, you're limited to generally accredited investors. in most places. REITs are still not fully accepted around the world, by the way. So here we are sort of skipping over in some jurisdictions to go straight to tokenization. But I would say, again, if you got a great asset, let's say it's in Singapore, and you want to monetize through a tokenization, you're selling units, ownership units. And those, whoever wants to exit will have to find someone who wants to buy the token for that specific asset. And what you can't get away with when you have a single asset like this is that management is critical, and local management and assets are management intensive. Buildings are subject to environmental degradation. They have to be kept up. So when you own that asset, through however fractionalized it is, I mean, there's tax issues that go with it. You're an owner. I don't care if you're a 1/1,000,000th of a 1%, but you're still an owner. And somewhere along the line, if you want to finally exit that asset, you're going to have to find someone who does it, or you've got a custodial type of situation where they'll buy it back, a broker dealer, but it's probably going to be at a discount. Okay. So there's one way to start thinking about resolving that, and I don't want to go and dominate here, so I'll try to end this go quickly here. I've given this a lot of thought. I personally think that monetize, the alternative to the private equity closed-in 7-year lockout, even crowdfunding, you have lockouts. You're typically in that deal for quite a while, but the alternative is a tokenized private equity that buys into a multiple of assets, just as we hear. And rather than institutionals having the only real access to that level of multiple portfolio investment around the world with people who really understand the real estate market, someone has to understand it. When we say there's no intermediaries, I have a problem accepting that in terms of real estate. I think there's right down to the lady, the little lady who takes care of the hallways and the bathrooms. Someone's got to take care of the asset. Someone is being the trustee for the investors. And when you're going to start to think about having really liquid markets for those tokens, it can only really be done, in my opinion, through a quasi-centralized manager who's managing a fund that just happens to be tokenized, and allows that entry to those traded portfolios to be far more fractionalized, far unit sales to people around the world who want to be a part of that fund. And one interesting idea for this is you see all of these tokenized assets, and one way to start the process is a central group basically acts as a fund of funds for tokens, where you actually buy tokens that have been issued for various assets around the world. You create a fund, which is basically a fund of funds, and then allow people to buy into that fund of funds. So this is where I think the market will go first, really first stage. And I think it makes a lot of sense.
Interesting.
To that. So the opportunity is beyond imagination, but I think it's still a very step-by-step process.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pietro. So let's move on to another question. Doran, so I understand that Next Changes represent a global team of experts from finance, technology, and media, and that you all have come together to design an O2O platform to connect the innovation industry. So in fact, you just mentioned that you have you guys are hosting the Hong Kong Blockchain Week in November. So congratulations and all the best to a successful event. Before that, so since your business is in the intersection of technology and media industry, so what do you think of the recent release of the Global Standards Mapping Initiative, which is led by the Global Blockchain Business Council and the World Economic Forum? So because with so many regulators and players having different standards, how do you think that is the best way moving forward so as to propel the industry forward? Yeah.
Well, I'm actually very glad that we're at that stage where we can even talk about a global standard for mapping initiative. That already tells you that we're not in year one, but many years of evolution, because even to have the people in the ecosystem and regulators and the various different influencers that are involved in this, it takes an evolution. The first thing I will say to you is this: innovation is always ahead of regulation. That's very important. And what we want to see, and that there needs to be standards and regulations that allow for bigger participants to come in. If you only have an ecosystem, or you have standards where it isn't enough of a high level and it doesn't allow for large companies to come in, then the industry doesn't grow. So I'm very glad that this is happening. What we are having is what we call a collaborative, multi-stakeholder approach to develop a policy approach which will protect the rights of citizens without stifling innovation. That is the basic, I think, thrust of what we need to do with these kind of global standards. And the important part is that I don't think it could have happened earlier. We weren't ready. I just want to say there are examples now. I mean, I'm sure everyone has seen recently the announcement of PayPal coming into the crypto market. Now, that is a watershed moment in that a very large company in the traditional space feels comfort that there is things that are in place, pillars that allow for the regular customer to buy, sell, and hold Bitcoin and other virtual currencies, and that this will connect to all these millions of merchants. This is a very important point, because this is in essence what these kind of standards are there for, because it allows for the institutionalization of this industry. And I think that's a very important thing. And that's what this global standard mapping initiative takes all the different considerations into, and have the various stakeholders involved in this approach.
Okay, excellent. I think that's true. So, should it be a one-size-fits-all or a bespoke approach? Simon, anything to add to this?
Well, yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because we all kind of want standards, we all want interoperability. You know, it's very important, certainly in the medium term. You know, but in the short term, there's lots of different standards, lots of different bodies trying to create the standards, and lots of, it's in a very early stage. I mean, you know, I agree with Doran that, you know, we're not year one anymore, but, you know, it's still, momentum is still building. And I think that, you know, certainly for us as a marketplace, you know, we try and be agnostic in a way, because we don't want to align ourselves in any particular place until it's clear which is going to be the kind of the global standard that succeeds. So in the interim, we end up having to support lots of different standards, you know, to have a genuinely open marketplace. So yeah, I totally agree. It's an important thing long term, and but it will be interesting to see how, you know, what sort of how fast they can move, because, you know, like innovation moves faster than regulation. You know, innovation moves faster than people can come up with standards and interoperability too. So it's a challenge, but it's, you know, it's an interesting and exciting challenge as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Dr. Chiu, I mean, you are the Associate Professor of Practice in Finance at the prestigious Chinese University of Hong Kong Business School. So now, since you are in the academia, do you think that we need more edification of the technology and its application to the community to ensure that asset tokenization and digital securities will finally take off?
Mm-hmm. Yes, certainly. I think education is definitely important to bring more awareness about the usefulness of the technology in solving business problems. So as of now, major universities around the world, including UHK Business School, of course, have already jumped on the bandwagon in developing the fintech discipline, investing in research, and also offering courses in fintech. But generally, the field is still quite new, and there isn't a very structured or organized way to teach the subject. So we definitely need more success stories and industry examples where the positive change that is brought about by technology is more scalable and visible, so that people can feel the impact. And that these examples will then serve as excellent case studies in the classrooms.
Okay, great. Let me know if you need some adjunct lecturer. I would fly there. Okay, but anyway, so, and I heard that your university is going to conduct a FinTech education conference on November 2nd. Would you like to share a little bit information since we are on the topic of education?
Oh, okay. So actually, yes, in fact, we are hosting a FinTech conference on November 2nd as part of the Hong Kong FinTech Week, actually, in conjunction with the Hong Kong FinTech Week. So if you just Google CUHK Conference for Financial Technology 2020, you get to the website, and then there's a link for you to register. The event is free, by the way, to the public, so anyone can join. So we have speakers from professors in the university and also some industry practitioners to share about the latest developments in machine learning and data analytics, in AI and so tokenization, of course. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So since we're on the topic of education, Doran, do you think that the media plays a critical role in this, being responsible to get the message across to the general masses?
I think media plays one important role, not the only important role. I think the most important role in maybe not just getting the message out, but to make this industry really stand solid and that tokenization takes place, is that really large companies and announcements are made by those companies that are coming into these markets and tokenizing or using tokenized platforms. So I believe that by reporting this kind of information, we'll make sure that we are more than in the process of edifying this industry. But the media plays just one role. I think the ecosystem altogether needs to grow, and that's the most important part of this.
Okay, well, good to know. So all of us, let's be advocates of asset tokenization and digital securities. Okay, we are running short of time. So one last question. So I think this, I want to go to Samson. Awards like TADS are important, not just to celebrate the community's best works, but also prove that the industry was flourishing and here to stay. So what benefits do you think that the TADS event will bring to the community? And do you think that this signifies the onset for the maturity of asset tokenization and digital securities industry?
Right. Well, I think now it's a very interesting timing for the whole industry, right? Because as maybe starting, I think around like, I mean, right after the, around like 2018, right? After the bubble burst, right? The whole industry sort of like moved towards the more compliance, I would say even like a more back to the right track, right? And since then, all the regulators around the major financial centers really looked at this whole digital asset space very seriously, right? And many of them have then roll out so-called sandbox programs, right? We have in Hong Kong, Singapore, UK, you know, US, Korea, Japan. And after the, you know, a little over 2 years, now we really see a lot of those like good companies from the sandbox are graduating, right? One by one, right? We have Archase here, you know, congratulations. And we have 2 in Singapore, I believe. We have the first one in Hong Kong, and I'm sure more to come, right? So now the ecosystem become more complete, right? Because the marketplace or secondary trading venue is provide the liquidity, right? We have the regulation for the initial offering, right? And we have all the technology, as I think Juan make a great comment, technology is way advanced of regulation, right? So the technology is already ready for a while. So all the pieces now is ready. So I think now the industry is actually moving from what we more often talk about, you know, fintech. In my personal opinion now is about tech fin. What is the difference? Because fintech, if you think about it, is really anchored around technology, right? It started a few years ago when the technology is not ready, so people talk about, you know, distributed ledger technology and all these like blockchains and custodian solution and many, right? But now all the pieces are there. Now we should focus on the business. So it should be about technology finance. Is go back to the principle, is still financial sector, right? We're still dealing with securities, we're still dealing with asset, but a new way with a lot of technology enablement behind. So I think now is a good timing. That's why we try to work with many industry leaders to create these awards, is to drive, to incentivize more good players around the ecosystem to recognize the effort and incentivize new players for coming in, and also hoping to, as mentioned earlier, set some best practice and measuring standard around this new asset class, right? So this is what we try to achieve.
Okay, thank you very much. Pietro, would you like to jump onto this?
Well, I tend to be pretty myopic when I talk about real estate. I did want to make one point, is, as I said, up to now, we see, well, first of all, let me go to the media question. I find media often jumps ahead of where industry actually is and creates expectations. I find that there are people who are not tech savvy who are reporting on the markets based on what they hear. They get exuberant. They generate expectations that then get dashed, as there's a lag between the expectation and the reality. And I absolutely agree with John that the disciplined announcement, the large player making a movement into a space generates more excitement than 50 reporters talking about some small deal that got done as though that were the example where the industry is going to go. And I've seen that happen, especially within the real estate side of this equation. Real estate is still, to me, it's very evolving still. As I say, when we talk about securitization of debt instruments, you have to remember what kind of debt. I mean, especially in real estate, is it construction, senior financing? Is it mezzanine? Are you in a preferred equity space? There are so many slices. And often these are not well understood by a mass market. Where you get accredited investors who are large, who are looking for some place to put money to get a return. And through tokenization, they can spread their investments out much further than they could before, rather than being stuck in one deal. They can now buy fractionalizations of 18-month bridge loans at high interest rates. This creates a whole flood of liquidity that hasn't existed before. But it's still for that audience, for that mass audience, the mass democratization of the industry. There's still a lack of understanding for how all of this works, because it has been basically monopolized and has been controlled by large players to this point. And how do you get that information out to suddenly millions of potential investors who, are they really willing to look at investing on something for 18 months? That's actually hard for them to do. They can't plan. They have to make another decision soon. So what we'll find with real estate, real estate is probably the most complex asset class that exists. And there are so many pieces to its universe that to approach it from a successful, to achieve the goals of the democratization of real estate really, is where it needs to get focused into those areas that are amenable to that type of broad investor. A broad investor base with a liquid market where they can exchange and come in and out. And I agree again with Juan. Where the real play happens here is when you start to get some of the large ones like a Blackstone or someone who starts to say, we're gonna create a tokenized private equity fund that's now open-ended, and we're gonna manage it under the expertise that we have. Boy, watch people start to pay attention at that point. Rather than the sort of cottage industry that basically defines this very early stage still. I guess, innovation phase to transforming the definition of real estate ownership.
Okay, good, great. Anyone else? I mean, any last words from the panel? Simon?
Yeah, I mean, just picking up on a couple of those last points. I mean, I think the media have an important part to play, and I think education is key. If you look at a lot of people involved in traditional financial markets, if you mention sort of tokens and blockchain to them, they just think Bitcoin, money laundering, drug dealers. You know, there's a myopic view. You know, people they're blissfully unaware of the benefits of tokenization. And when I meet sort of colleagues I've worked with, because I come from that world originally, and when I meet people who are still in that world, when I actually take the time to explain tokenization and security tokens and digital securities, they get it. So it's not a matter of the fact that they don't believe in it. It's just they don't understand it yet. So I think education is key. And I think actually the awards, again, twofold really. One, they're a sign of progress. You know, the fact that we're having these awards is a sign of progress in the industry, which is really good. But also they help educate. I mean, anything that gets the message out there and helps educate is important. So that's why we're a big supporter of Samson and what he's doing with these awards.
Yeah. Dr. Cheer, any last words?
Well, I think what has developed in the fintech industry in the last decade is actually already quite remarkable. Remember that all the things that we can do now on the smartphone now, like you know, paying individuals using PayMe or WeChat Pay, you know, all these things, they were not there 10 years ago. And now we tend to take these things for granted. So I think a certain level of momentum has definitely built up in the fintech industry, in security tokens and so forth. The next 10 to 20 years could see more significant development in the digitization of securities. So I think we just need to be patient as the industry matures.
Excellent. Juan, any last words?
Yes, I believe what Sam is doing is wonderful, where we're now in the evolution and that we have to put into place certain standards for excellence, and that we can really determine who are the major, I guess, the more successful players. But what I would like to emphasize and leave a message to the audience here is that one event is not enough. One location is not enough. This has to be done consistently over time, all around the world. And then I believe this, alongside with all the other efforts that are taking place, will lead us to a much more vibrant, regulated, and healthy market.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, that's the end of our panel discussion for today. So to our distinguished panelists and on behalf of TADS Awards, huge thanks for taking time off to be here today. And to our online viewers, thank you very much for tuning in. We hope that you have enjoyed the session as much as we have thoroughly enjoyed our discussion. And to the TADS Awards team, thank you for having me. And here's Ian Fong signing out, and keep safe till we meet again. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a good night. Have a good day.
Good night.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you very much.
Congratulations again, son.
Yes.
Well done.
Thanks, everyone.
Congrats, Samson.
Thank you. And good evening.
Nice to meet you too.